Hey, what's up? It's Kit. Time for another video. Today we talk about the fishing line we use in Thai rubber fishing. Now, this isn't extensive. This is based on my experience in the water that I fish in. So a little bit of a caveat going into this. Having said that, my experience stems very much from the development phase in one of the Thai rubbers that I'm going to be showing you. So I had pleasure of actually testing it out before it hit the market, um, and see if it fits the environment here. And luckily, you know what, it worked really well. So I used to work for Rapala, which is literally the biggest fishing tackle manufacturer in the world. So there's a bit of industry experience that I'm sharing in my channel. If you're new to the channel, this channel talks about the hows and whys of fishing. We cover everything from big game, ultralight, everything in the middle, including fly fishing. So I think when I make these videos, I draw from the experience that I had from working in the company. I was instrumental in helping develop a few lures. Okay. The what do you call this? The testing of some products, of course. There's been a few slow jigs, and this one, Thai rubber. Okay, so before this was introduced, um, I actually got to test out this thing, and boy, I mean, the prototype was so new that the inserts were popping out, the paint wasn't as durable and stuff. You know, um, they were in they were sent in plastic bags and stuff like that. So that prototype, okay, I'm not talking about those guys that are actually saying like, oh, we're field testing things, but the things like for sale, like proper field testing and stuff. So I have a bit of experience when it comes to these things, and this is what I'm trying to share in this channel. So if literally if you want to learn what I have learned, because I'm sharing most of it in this channel, click on that subscribe button. Very important. It really helps the channel go forward as well. Your subscriptions, and for those that have subscribed, and especially those that are members, thank you very much. So without further ado, we're talking about lines for Thai rubber. Okay. Now I have two examples here. Obviously, they're in my reels. Okay. So I've already discussed that this is 0.8 and this is 1.5. Um, and this is my PG. There is another HG of this. I have a few reels that are set up for Thai rubber actually. I also have what's this? Abu Garcia. Okay, there's at least 2 or 3 Abu Garcias also set up for Thai rubber fishing. They are low profile reels, and they're actually designed for saltwater use as well. And the same thing, there are low ratio reels, there's fast ratio reels. One of them is actually the Abu Garcia BV8. So if you look at that, there's the BV8, that's one of those. And what's cool about that reel is that it has a very wide spool, shallow spool, and it has a bit of a capacity, quite strong for something so small. But generally, when I go Thai rubber fishing, most of the time I pick up my Calcutta Conquests, and this is the Osha Calcutta. So silver, gold, kind of doesn't matter, but the what do you call this? The color doesn't matter. Okay, but the most important thing is that um, they have really good capacity and they have good speed. Speed is very important, as we have discussed. And if you have not watched the first 2 videos in this series, there's a link in the description that takes you to the whole playlist. Now, the line is very important. Just with the reel, when it comes to speed, the diameter of the line matters so much when you're Thai rubber fishing. Now, remember, if you go back a few years, before braid was introduced, they had specific line for tie rubber fishing. And more importantly, it's not really the line, it's the weighting system. So basically what it is like a long piece of line, and it had sinkers. Okay, so like, imagine they had small oval sinkers in a leader that's quite long. And that is designed to fight the current because its weight evenly distributed according to a set length. And then at the end of it would be something like this, okay, which is either a Tenya or a tie rubber. And they would fish using that on hand lines or on commercial reels because guess what? This is a commercial fishing tool. And then it was brought about by brought into the 21st century by someone from Shimano, and then extensively did a lot of modifications on the tie rubber, and basically that's how we kind of know of them these days. So the fishing line is very important because it's integral. Okay, and the drastic change is the braid. So if you think that you can actually use mono for tie rubber fishing, you probably could, but the stretch, even if you're fishing shallow water, there would be some stretch, and that would probably enable you to miss a lot of strikes. So braid is important. Okay, now in this particular reel, I've loaded 0.8, and this is kind of like my go-to. Most of the time, I use this. There are times when I need a bit of muscle, and I use 1.5, and that is about it. Now, in deeper water, I have a spool of 1.5 for the bigger reels that I have, which I showed last time, these blue safaris. Okay, and most of the reels are level wind reels because I forgot to mention this. When you're dealing with tie rubber, because of your retrieval speed, okay, and because of the constant up and down of the type of fishing, you don't have time to level wind. Now, can you use a non-level wind reel? Yeah, of course, probably better. But see, the thing is, probably better when you hook a big fish. There we go. But the thing is, to start with, tie rubber fishing is actually a light tackle technique. Okay, so it's much like slow jigging. It is a finesse technique. Okay, and it is used extensively in places that have a lot of fishing pressure. But the difference is this specifically targets this tie rubber. Okay, specifically targets bottom fish. Okay, now if you want something a bit more flexible, then the lure for you or the system for you would be the Inchiku. All right, so this is a bit more flexible. This is the sort of thing that you could use to catch yellowtails or amberjacks. I made a mistake of actually fishing for that was so stupid. I made a mistake of actually fishing this in a place where there was a wreck. Okay, and the wreck had a lot of snapper. Okay, and I was after those. But see, guess what? This particular tie rubber swims in an S motion, and we'll talk about different types of tie rubber in the next video. But as I was reeling it, it was doing its thing, and then bang, an amberjack took it. And guess what? 0.8. Not gonna work. All right, so I lost that fish because the tackle is just too light. Okay, also, in hindsight, the mistake there was that I was also kind of reeling quite fast. So it attracted the amberjack, and before you know it, I had one on the line, and boy, that was scary. 0.8. I had it for about 30 minutes though. So even with the 0.8, I at one point I was gaining so much line we thought we were gonna land it. Okay. Now I've landed amberjack on 0.8 before, but that was kind of it's kind of a different story. My rod wasn't as soft. Okay, so 0.8. Now, the reason why you want 0.8 or lighter, now some experts in Japan go as far down as 0.4. Okay, the reason is that when you're using really thin line, it cuts through the water a lot better. Okay, and believe it or not, as someone explained it to me, there's a hum when the current hits the line, and the thinner your line, obviously, the less there would be as far as the hum is concerned, right? So it makes a sound. So the thicker your line, the more it will make a sound, and fish get spooked. Okay, this is one of the reasons why my leader length we're going back and forth when it comes to line and leader. Okay, also the reason why my leader is actually long, because the surface area of, let's say, leaders. Okay, so this particular one is fluorocarbon. It's smoother, so it doesn't catch the water as much. It's smooth. Okay, so there's no bumps on the surface. Now, if it has bumps on the surface, the more it would actually catch. So you have thinner line and thinner leaders when it comes to these things, and guess what? It just makes things work better. Now, it's the same thing when it comes to slow jigging and fast jigging. Okay, only this is a bit more sensitive, because guess what? The tie rubber doesn't really move that much. Okay, and it relies on the head to actually manipulate or make turbulence behind it so that this moves. So it doesn't rely on the action of the jig to, attract the fish. It is relying on the turbulence created by the head and this thing at the back to move. So if your line is actually doing something else other than what it's supposed to, which is literally just hold things together, the fish tend to kind of turn off. Okay. Now remember, again, this is a technique used on pressured areas. Now, when you're fishing in pressured areas, it's a bit trickier than those that are not. Okay. When it comes to pressured areas, fish get spooked by the smallest thing. So thinner lines work. This is why I don't get past PE 1.5, and I'm fishing in, let's say, up to 40 meters of water where I'm fishing. Okay, this sort of fishing is good up to about 150 meters. That's it. There are tie rubbers that are designed for deeper water. I have one that's like 250 grams and stuff. I haven't even used it. So largely, this is a shallow water technique. And what we have been, or I have been using, and a few that actually fished with me when it comes to these things, 0.8 seems to be a happy medium. Even when we're fishing, let's say, close to 100 meters, okay, targeting up to about 5 kilos of fish. Okay, so the weight. Now, leaders, we go. I've used as low as 8-pound test in shallower water. I've used as low as 8 pounds. Normal is about 10, and the maximum would be about 20. Okay. Now, depending on the size of the tie rubber I'm using, but normally 10 pound. Now, there's always going to be a debate whether it would be fluorocarbon and mono. And right now, I'll tell you, 90% of this, 90% of what I use is mono. Okay. Mono has a bit more stretch. Okay. And I'm also using, if you could see here, it's fishing line. It's not specific leader line. Most of the time, I will be using something like this. Okay. because it's cheaper and I get a lot more. Okay, so for this particular one, it's 300 meters. Okay, and guess what? It works. The fish, um, the last time I checked, you know, I've got no complaints. Now, this is not as sensitive as, let's say, slow jigging. I'm a bit more anal when it comes to slow jigging, but for this, okay, and for this type of fishing and the associated, the family, okay, I don't find them as sensitive as slow jigging or even fast jigging. So I use this. It has worked for me a lot. And as you can see there, that's the stuff that's on there. You can see the color. All right. Just so I tell you that there's no bull. Now, I don't have a shortage when it comes to leaders. I have a lot. Okay. So I have Invisalign, which I use. Okay. So this is the 8 pound I was talking about. I have these as well. Okay. This is 20. And this is the maximum I use. Okay. So right there. A lot of different reasons why. Abrasion resistance, I find that mono is actually a bit better when it comes to abrasion resistance. Fluorocarbon seems like it's abrasion resistant, but since it's actually not stretchy, what happens with fluorocarbon is that if there's a little nick and then you stretch it, bang, it cuts. Now, contrary to what a lot of people think, fluorocarbon actually stretches more than mono. Okay, I think I've spoken about this in a different video where I talk about fishing line and leaders. But fluorocarbon has a longer coefficient, elongation coefficient. Okay, it stretches more, but it requires more force to stretch the fluorocarbon. So although it seems kind of stiff and all that, if you actually have the right force to stretch it, it will elongate more than mono. But here lies the problem. Okay, so again, a little nick and then it stretches, bang, it gets cut. Whereas mono, even if it has a lot of cuts and all that, when it stretches, because of the property of mono that it stretches, it's better. Okay, and I found that especially with tie rubber, because of the hooks that you're using, okay, and this is from experience using these specific hooks. This is the Dokkan, okay? And there's a hook model from VMC specifically for Dokkan, okay? Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because from my experience, these hooks are weak. And that's by design. So that, part of the series is I'm going to show you guys how to kind of make this. But also because by design, these hooks will stretch out, and a lot of people have complained that the hooks stretch out. It might not be good and all this and all of that, but that's by design. What it is, okay? What it is that when you're fishing and you're snag, you can pull. This will open, and you get the thing back. These things are not cheap. Although I'm gonna show you how to make these. All right, so these things are not cheap, and it's actually a good idea to just pull and open the hooks and get the thing back. Now, the drawback, obviously, would be if you don't know how to set your drags right, it will open, the hooks will open, and then you start blaming the hooks and then saying that, oh, this thing's a piece of shit. Excuse the French. But what it is part of the system. Okay, now if you look at other brands, they have stronger hooks. Oops, they have stronger hooks. You can see that the wire on this one's actually thicker. This is from Yuzuri. Okay, so let's compare. But I'll tell you, this particular one right here, this black one that I'm showing you, you can see the difference in the wire. Okay, but this one will hook a lot more fish. Okay, this one will hook a lot more fish than this. And part of the reason why you can actually, pressure or not pressure the fish is with the line. and that's why it's important. Also with the leader, obviously, and you know, thicker leaders would obviously have a lot more resistance to break offs and getting scratched down there and stuff. So if you're fishing around snags, so you go up to about 20, okay, and then what do you call this? Go down as low as 8 when the bite's really tough. Now here is one of the things to consider when you're using this type. There are others of this type. Okay. Now, I'm gonna pull this, and you can see the line coming out from there. Okay, let me pull this off, and then I'll show you. So this particular one is designed so that it actually attaches to the head. There are others that slide, and one of the considerations that you have to look into is that knot right there. Okay, it's a simple knot. It's actually a uni knot. But see, the thing is, other knots, I keep on hitting the mic, other knots will stop you from going into the head. And that is a problem when it comes to these things, because what you want is literally to have it attached there. Some knots are too bulky that they won't get in. Okay, so that is a consideration for the leader. Okay, now we've spoken about the line. Okay, and the line is pretty straightforward, as thin as you can. Okay, that's it. Now it doesn't matter if it's 0.4 or 0.8. This is shallow water fishing. And as far as line is concerned, and feeling the stretch and everything, that's like in deeper water. So if you want to use X8, X16 or whatever, 16 carrier, 8 carrier, 9 carrier, go ahead. This is 8 carrier braid right here. Okay, and this one as well. So these are all 8 carriers. But when it comes to deeper water, so my Studio Oceanmark L30 is filled with X4 because I'm fishing it in deeper water. But in shallower water, X8. Now, another reason why I go with X8 or more is because remember that you want to feel a lot. And if you're using this and by the way, my leader here is actually 10. So you can see this is 10-pound test. And the other one is, this one is 10 as well. So my median, normal for me, is actually 10 most of the time. Okay, so just a heads up. So even with 1.5, I'm using 10 because most of the time I'm fishing shallow, and I'm fishing when you're fishing closer to the mainland here in the UAE. Okay, if you're not going far, if you're fishing near the shoreline, our cities here are really close. Okay, so the city proper of this particular emirate where I'm living in is literally 5 minutes from the water. Now you go to Dubai, it's almost the same thing. About the city itself is really near the coastline. You go to Abu Dhabi, even worse because the city is around water. Okay, now whenever you're fishing near the city, what happens is that the pressure is high up. Now we go to Japan, it's the same exact thing. Closer to the cities, you'll find that the fishing there will be more difficult because it has a lot more pressure. But this is where tie rubber shines. Okay, and this is why for me, I have 10 on my leaders, and then I'll have, I'll adjust it according to whatever's running. But normally I have 10 there because that's kind of like in the middle. 10 and then 15, 20, okay? But my line is going to be steady at either 8, 0.8, or 1.5. Now, the leaders you can juggle around, especially when you're fishing in places where there's wrecks, okay? There's structure. So the more structure you encounter, the thicker your leader and the shorter it would be. Leader lengths, I stick with the system that I do with what do you call this, with my slow jigging and my fast jigging. So I use long um, sections of leaders. Okay, so uh, my thinnest ones would be the longest, and my thickest ones would be my shortest. So my 20 would be one arm span, my 15 and 10 would be like two, and then my 8 would be like really long. Or I could just play around with the lengths. But the most important thing is that you use a leader that's also quite thin, because you don't want your tie rubber to actually get carried by the current, because your leader will enable it to kite. Okay, so leader is very important. Now, even if you have a thin line and then you have a thicker leader, the current will affect the leader and it will affect the tie rubber. And what you want is to always have contact. Okay. Now, the good thing with tie rubber is that you can fish it diagonally as opposed to drop down straight. And you'll find that when you're fishing it diagonally, you'll actually feel a lot more. Now, the good thing also is because of the type of assist hook it has small hooks. Unlike slow jigging that has bigger hooks. So you have small hooks because when the fish actually kind of strike this, the chances of the fish actually snagging one hook or two when it starts to move is higher than with bigger hooks. Um, that's all. That's one reason why the hooks are actually disproportionately smaller than the head. Okay. Now, again, thinner line will cut through water better than thicker line. It doesn't mean to say that you cannot use thicker line. I've seen people that have trust issues. Okay. A and B, they just don't know how it's fished properly. Some people would actually just put it on whatever line, because guess what? That's all they have. But when the fish are thick and the fishing is good, obviously they will catch. Okay, so it doesn't mean to say that even if you're doing the wrong things, it's not gonna produce. It does, okay, in certain conditions. But when the fishing is difficult, don't expect to be consistently catching. That's the thing. So if you want to consistently catch in different conditions, thin line, thin leader is the way to go, especially if you're fishing near the city or near a settlement, near an area of big population. Okay, and anywhere, it could be a city, a town, settlement, whatever. Just as long as there's a lot of people, these fish that are closer in are going to get pounded. And to fish effectively and consistently in those areas, you want something that will give you a lot of chances. And for most fishing, including tie rubber fishing, thin line, thin leader is it. Especially those guys that are on kayaks. This is probably one of those types of fishing that really shines. Because when you are fishing tie rubber on a kayak, it's as if this thing is actually made for that sort of thing. Another good thing is that when you hook something big, even if you have thin line, it's just gonna tow you, until it gets tired. And you have actually, when it comes to situations like that, the fish get tired because it's pulling on something. You don't have to reel. You just have to just kind of let it run, and then the kayak would just follow it. So imagine dragging the kayak plus your I am assuming that a lot of people have the same weight, if not greater than me. And I'm not thin. I might look it, but I have a belly. So we're heavy, plus the kayak, and then it's taking. And I've caught a lot of fish on. I think I've caught a lot more fish, bigger fish, with lighter line on the kayak than I have on a boat, because of that particular phenomenon, a sleigh ride. It's called a sleigh ride. So when you're tie rubber fishing, you hook a fish, it runs, and then after a while it just slows down, and then you can bring it up. So that's a good way of doing things. At least if if you have the resource and you have the stomach, I would say, to do that sort of thing. Anyway, so again, moral of this whole thing: light line, light leader equals a lot more fish. Okay. Tenya is the same thing. Oops. So for Tenya fishing, lighter line, and it goes with the rod, it goes with the reel, the whole system. It works so well. And I remember a lot of sessions around the base of one of the Palm Islands. And it was so weird because, even with traditionally, with just a dropper loop and a hook, which is kind of similar to this, right? We were fishing and everything, and we weren't really getting a lot of bites. But as soon as I put on the Tenya, for some weird reason, probably because when you're fishing this, okay, again, light line, you drop down, you slowly lift it and then fall. And what happens with this? And this is called a cupcake design or something. Okay, and you rig your shrimp like that. You can see it. It's upside down, and what happens is when you pull, the shrimp goes like that on the drop, right? It curls up because water's pushing it up, and then when it drops down, it relaxes. So you have kind of like an action that's like this, right? So because the bottom's flat, it doesn't drop down fast. What happens is it actually kind of slides back and forth, and it has that motion, right? The fish freaking just go crazy. And again, the drop is dictated by the diameter of the line. And we were fishing for pretty shallow. We were pretty shallow, and we were on kayaks, me and my cousin. So it worked for us actually, because I shared one with him. This was after I came from Japan, and I was like, hey, check this out. Let's do this and all that. And then when we were fishing him, we were like, wow. I believe these were the ones that we used, the Daiwa ones. So for this, and associated the family of these, even these, okay. So these I've caught quite a lot of fish, even amberjack with this thing. Very, very interesting. It acts like a spoon. Again, we're gonna talk more about this in the next video. But you cast this out, okay, with thin line, and I think if I'm using thicker line with this particular thing, because it's quite heavy most of the time. I mean, this is a small one, but it's already like 70 grams. And again, we're fishing shallow. So, I tossed this quite far, and I bought like a dozen of these, and I only have like 4 left. So yeah, it works. Okay, so anyway, so cast this out, drop down, started reeling, and this is I used the spinning rod in this instance. So I kind of lobbed it far away, dropped it down, reel, boom. And I'm getting a lot more pelagics for my inchuku fishing, more than I do with my tie rubber. Also, a huge advantage when the line is thin and the leader is thin. I for this particular things, because I'm fishing near the city, I end up using lighter line. Now in Japan, it would be no different. So you'll find that in Japan, they'll be using thinner line as well. So again, just something to really remember if you want to venture out in this whole thing. Don't go over 1.5. 1.5 is about the max that I use. And I think it's still thin enough. Now, if you want to be all technical and all this, you could drop down, okay? And again, I have used super thin line with this up to 0.3, In some instances, I have a reel filled with 0.3 that I'm using, and then I'm using smaller ones. Even in very shallow water, I've used a version of a Thai rubber that's super small in shallower water and actually have caught fish, even from shore. Okay. And again, uh, thin line, something thick, and it just doesn't reach the bottom quite fast enough. Um, or when there's current, it just doesn't perform well. So that's that. Alrighty. So that's it for this video. I really hope that I know I've been repeating the point over and over again, but for some people, they kind of need that. It also tells you that it's that important. Otherwise, I wouldn't be harping for the last 30 minutes just for people to be using thin line. But that is it. Okay. I've been taught that by guys in Japan. Like thin line. That's it. Kept on repeating like Kitsan. It has to be thin line. It has to be thin line. There are always going to be exceptions. So if you're going fishing in deeper water, yeah, for me, I'd probably use 0. No, sorry, not up to um, PE2. You know, when I'm fishing like deeper water, and probably, you know what, I'm gonna try it out. Let's see. Probably one of these days, I'm gonna go to the what do you call this? The ledge, as we call it here in Fujairah, and then rig something up that's kind of big, and then try it out there and see what happens. And if I did that, you guys are gonna be with me. I can easily fill one of the blue safaris to do that sort of work. So that'll be interesting. Alrighty, that's it for this video. Once again, if you want to learn more, or if you have learned from this video, give it a thumbs up. Alrighty, and if you haven't yet, click on that subscribe button. Now, subscribing is very important. It helps the channel grow. And another thing you could do, if you want to do more for the channel, is to click on join and be a member. Alrighty, there's 2 choices for the membership, so it's up to you whether you want to help more or just buy me a coffee. Alrighty, that is it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Class dismissed.